And go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dirtbags and Pinstripes, joined as always by David Swor. I am DJ Cox. And David, we got a buddy from college on here tonight, Matt Greer. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. And big time thanks for coming on the show tonight, bud.
Looking forward to it.
Good deal, man. So, guys, it's been a lot of fun the last couple of weeks since we've done this podcast. There's been a lot that's going on. We'll jump right into the American League East. And David, this is your portion of the show. A lot of this is you. Last week you were about to jump off a bridge with the Yankees. How you feeling after these last couple of weeks? Any better? Any worse? What's the thoughts?
Been rough going, DJ. We had a little reprieve there. Won 5 straight, and everything was looking like we were headed back the right direction. But in typical 2022 fashion, lost 2 to Oakland, where we've now lost 1 to the Angels. And as we speak, I think we're tied up with the Angels. So pretty much everything has gone foul. Bullpen's still a mess, and we had a bunch of injuries. We've talked about that. The frustrating thing for me right now, DJ, is the Yankees have several players in the minors that they can possibly help. I'm not going to say they will help, but they could possibly help. And they're just choosing to keep him down. I don't understand it. They did call up Oswaldo Cabrera. He's been a good player here for him about the last week. But it's frustrating watching Jordan Montgomery tear it up in St. Louis while our pitching is not so great. So the good news is Toronto's been just as bad. Tampa Bay's only been slightly better, so they've only gained a couple games on us. Baltimore's been doing well, but they're far enough back, to be honest. I'm not all that worried about them. But the AL East, man, it's wide open. It's Tampa Bay's for the taking if they want to take it. The Yankees are in a tailspin. I think I saw where the Yankees' first 65 games, I don't remember exactly what their record was, but the winning percentage around 700. The last 65 games, they're like 4 games under 500. So I don't know what's going on.
So one of the good things here, I guess, to talk about a little bit is Judge just hit number 50. So that's a big one. To get to 50 before September is pretty big. And he's on pace for 63. I don't know, man. I just got something in me saying he's not going to get 61 and pass Maris and pass the Yankee record. David, do you think he's going to get it?
I think if he'll get pitched to, he will. But, the Angels yesterday chose to walk him twice, and you can't blame him. And of course, then he came up in the 9th and hit a home run. So I think if they'll pitch to him, he'll hit it. I mean, he's just amazing. He's an amazing player. He's, to me, easily the MVP. It's not even – I know Ohtani's had a good season as well, but Judge is so far and away better than the next person behind him. I think the next person behind him has in the low 30s in homers. And Rizzo actually might be. I think he hit number 30 tonight. And so to me, it's an easy decision for MVP.
Matt, what do you think? Do you think Judge will pass Roger Maris's mark of the American League record?
It's kind of the same what Dave was saying. It's like it comes up to how many attempts he gets. I mean, so you're going to be swinging for it, and so that's going to be his biggest deal. Is every opportunity he gets just to swing, he's going to be swinging for the fences. And so, I mean, do you walk him? Do you try to put him into those positions? I guess it kind of comes down to what kind of pitchers are willing to go up against him. If they're willing to back down, if they're willing to just let it ride and let the ball, I guess, kind of fall where it may. He's got the chance. He's definitely. I mean, it seemed like it's just every other game, at least he's putting one out, and so he's definitely just got the string. He's just killing the ball every time he gets a chance. So it's the opportunities. It's what it's going to come down to. So I kind of agreeing with Swor on this one.
So, David, one of the things I noticed about Judge is he hits a lot of home runs to the right side. He's got that right center home run cut down pretty good. That's a great thing to have in Yankee Stadium, is that short porch there. As a righty, he can hit it. So, David, I wanted to ask you this. So, it's with Stanton back now. Is Stanton back batting right behind Judge? Is that how he's got it going right now? Or
it changes every night. So
yeah.
Who knows? Tonight, Benintendi's hitting behind Judge.
Does that hurt Judge's chances, though, when you don't have – if you had Stanton right behind Judge Don't you think they'd have to pitch to him more, or do you think mixing it up
I would
hurts him?
think so. I would just like to see them roll the same lineup out there for a week. I mean, maybe for some people it doesn't matter, but to me it does. Benintendi ought to be hitting lead off, in my opinion. Judge ought to be hitting second. Stanton probably ought to be hitting third. LeMahieu fourth. Rizzo fifth. That's how I would roll with it. But Boone literally changes that lineup every single night. It's never the same.
So one cool thing that happened this week in Yankee land, David, and we talked about this when they announced that they were going to do this, but now it's officially happened, is Paul O'Neill has gone into the circle. The number retirement of Paul O'Neill. And Matt, I don't know, man. We were talking about this at first. When you hear they're going to retire Paul O'Neill's number, you're like, man, Paul O'Neill's going to be in there with like Babe Ruth and DiMaggio and Mantle, and you're kind of like, what in the world? But you look at O'Neill's numbers, man, as a Yankee, pretty dominant. And 4 rings, obviously, is the big thing too.
Mhm.
So, Matt, what were your thoughts on the whole Paul O'Neill thing before we get to David here?
Well, that's what, and going back over a lot of the things he did, it, he was so passionate. I mean, we always see his tirades and all the things that went
Yes.
in that, just the fits that he would throw. But it was just, he was passionate. It was like, it didn't matter what was going on. He was fighting through it. I think being also another fan of sports that involve feet, kind of remembering back whenever it was, he was trying to get the ball in. He just kind of kept bobbling. He made the final pass with his foot, and it was like he was kind of one of those. It was just whatever it took. He was sacrificing everything, and so I mean, seeing someone like that was willing to hit and really just kind of do anything that was necessary. Um, Listening back some to his interviews and stuff that had kind of gone on throughout the years, one of his biggest things was always just how embarrassing it was to strike out. And he talked about a lot of these other home run guys where they just swing for the fences and they would never change their swing. It didn't matter if it was an 0-2 count, it was a 3-0 count, and they were just swinging no matter what. And that's what his point was, like they don't change, they don't adapt, they don't do anything to really kind of go at whatever the situation is. And so he was one of those guys that was just, he was team first. It was nothing about him, and he was willing to give it all. And so I mean, more power to him. I definitely think he's deserving of it. I mean, his batting was always up. I mean, to the top, and his fielding again was always spectacular. So I definitely I agree with it. I love for him to get to that point.
David, your thoughts on your man O'Neill?
Well, it was kind of mixed feelings, to be honest with you. But I'm for it in the end. Because another thing you got to realize about O'Neill is he's been the Yankees color guy here for the last few years, and he's really good. He's really good. So yeah, like you said, 4 World Series rings, a batting title, couple top 5 MVP finishes, if I'm not mistaken. And you can't talk about any of those teams, those 4 World Championship teams, without Paul O'Neill. And Bernie Williams is in there, and he should be as well. He's not that much different than Paul O'Neill. But the question becomes, when are you going to run out of numbers? I think there's 5 players, maybe even 6 off of that team who's got retired numbers, and so I don't know where that stops. But one thing about Paul O'Neill too that kind of gave me a little hesitation. He only played 9 years with the Yankees.
Yeah.
He actually played 8 with the Reds. So a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, the majority of his career was with the Yankees, but not by much. But all in all, I'm for retiring it. He was one of my favorite players. I love the intensity, like Matt was talking about. Fun guy to watch.
Yeah, and guys, another thing you got to remember too is he was a part of that 1990 team with the Reds that won the World Series and was a big part of that as well. So 5 titles for him in his career, man. It's no joke. And he was a winner. And like Matt said, a gamer, man, just unreal. Go ahead, David.
No, I was just going to agree with what you said. I mean, he's just a winner.
Yeah, all the way through, man. And you look at his numbers, David. I mean, 6 of his years with the Yankees, he had over 90 ribbies. That's legit and just unreal. 4 of those were well over 100. So he was a great batter. 359 when he won the batting title. 460 on base percentage that year, which is unbelievable. He was on 460, which is top 10 for that year as well. Just a gamer, just an unbelievable player. One of those guys you just love to have on your team. When you're playing against him, probably got on your nerves a little bit. When you're on your team, one of those guys that you go to war with, no doubt. So big congratulations to him, man. And like you said, David, there's so many numbers, man. They were wondering if the Yankees are going to start having like jersey number 101 and stuff like that, man, going with the triple digit numbers because they're going to run out of it with all his numbers they got, because he's not the last guy that's going to get his number retired. So a historic franchise, indeed, and yet another one that goes into the retirement there, as well. So, David, I wanted to kind of pick your brain on something too. We had something happen a couple weeks back. And I know that me and you and Stiltner and Casey kind of went around a little bit on this one, with the Anthony Rizzo getting plunked the other day and having to go back to the plate, and finish the at bat. What were your thoughts on that one, David?
I watched the replay of it again today because I just want to make sure my position after I got my Yankees goggles off was still the same, and it is still the same. There's no way he could have got out of the way of that ball. There's no way. And it's one thing to lean in on a loopy curveball or whatever, but you can't in an instant on anything above about 85 miles an hour be like, oh, I'm going to lean in, and that ball would have hit him regardless. Ridiculous in my opinion.
Matt, what do you think about the hit by pitch rule? We've seen this a lot in baseball recently, and I'm kind of wondering what your thoughts are. And I don't know if you saw Rizzo particularly, but it's been happening more and more where the umpire says if you don't make an attempt to get out of the way of the ball, well, if the ball's coming 95 miles an hour at you, you're not going to make an attempt to get out of the way. So I don't know what the thought is on that, Matt. What do you think?
Yeah, being the where it's always up to the umpire discretion. It's like they start determining, oh, what was his intention? It's like how do you decide what someone's intention is in like a split second? And I tried looking at that. I had seen it the other day and trying to look at an overhead cam. It was like it was a breaking ball from a lefty that was already throwing kind of a sidearm, and so yeah, it could have went behind him if it was a fastball. So was he stepping forward thinking it was going to go behind him, was stepping forward and not knowing it was a breaking ball? And so, I mean, like I said, those split second decisions and then them believing they can determine someone's intention and just make the call right then. And it's like, I don't know. I don't like those types of situations. It's not a cut and dry and then to kind of throw someone else their thoughts and what they believe was happening. So it's kind of like a car wreck. You see it from two different angles. There's three different, I guess, interpretations of it. And so I'm not a big fan of whenever they go into that. It's like these are the majors. I mean, the pitchers, they can put it over the plate if they want to. And I don't know. You lose control of it. It is what it is.
I mean, the ball appeared to be like in the batter's box, like way in the batter's box. And like Matt said, whether he was leaning ahead to let it go behind him or whatever. I mean, the fact of the matter is if he didn't move at all, it was going to hit him. He didn't like lean into it. So anyway, what do you think, DJ?
I absolutely hate the interpretation of this rule because once you establish yourself in that box as a hitter, okay, unless you actually like physically dive your body towards a ball that's going to hit you out of the box there or anything like that, if you're in the box and you move and get hit, okay, if you move your feet and get hit by the ball, all right, I'm fine with them calling you back. If your feet are staying there and you're moving any part of your body wherever, I'm sorry, you cannot make him come back on that. Unless your body goes over the plate and you are hit by a strike, I get that. That's the one thing I totally get. Everything else to me, unless you're absolutely chasing the ball, you're standing there and the ball hits you and you don't flinch. I don't care how fast that ball's going. You can't make somebody stay there because they didn't try to get out of the way. That's your spot. And for them to hit you, I've never understood that. I don't care if they're throwing 30 miles an hour or 95. They throw it at you and you can't get out of the way of it and you didn't make an attempt. That's garbage to me. So Rizzo likes to shake his knees a lot when he hits. Okay. So his whole motion of his stance, all right, from the top to when he starts his swing from the bottom to the top, he's got a lot of movement there and he crowds the plate. Okay. His knees were not in the strike zone. They weren't anywhere in the strike zone. So his whole process of his swing what he was going through and got hit. And so they were saying he moved to the ball. I just don't understand it. So as a batter, are you supposed to not load and not supposed to take your body and start moving forward, and then you get hit? It's garbage. I think it was a terrible call. I really don't understand what umpires are doing with that call. I really think it needs to stop, to be honest with you. If you're hit when you're in the batter's box, I mean, come on, that's just ridiculous.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was unreal. But and Rizzo is kind of a little bit of he does get very heated out there. He did with the Cubs a lot, and he was pretty fired up and doing a lot of Paul O'Neill stuff in the dugout. So all right, so one thing real quick, Dave. Dick Schofield passed away. Dick Schofield was, and actually he was a pretty much a awesome high school baseball player here in the state of Illinois, and this is kind of one of the reasons I bring him up. Played at Springfield High School in Illinois here. Was also born in Illinois as well, and passed away really young. Actually, unfortunately, he wasn't very old at all, and just a sad day. He was David. He was a Yankee for a year as well. So just a career that started in 1953 and went to 1971. Played a lot of his years early on with the Pirates. Actually had 20 home runs in his career, or 21 home runs, I'm sorry, and a 317 on base percentage, and had a career of 19 years. So this guy was a longevity. And sometimes, you don't put up the stats that are eye-popping by any means, but if you can last in the league for 19 years, you're doing something right. And I think that's sometimes something we kind of forget about here is maybe he didn't put up the glamorous numbers all the time, but he was doing something, to get a job in the major leagues every single year throughout his entire career, and there's something to be said for that, because when you have a career batting average 227 and only 21 home runs, you don't really look at somebody like that and be like, wow, what are we doing here with this guy? But 19 years is a long career, 8 with and he played with 7 different teams there for a long time. So 1 year actually with the Yankees as well, David. So passed away, born in 1935. So what a long life, what a good run he had there. So rest in peace to Dick Schofield, one of the guys that passed away this past week for us. And then David, you had Bill Burbach.
Yeah, Bill Burbach, born in Wisconsin, but grew up in Iowa. Star baseball player, 3-sport guy, baseball, football, and basketball, member of the Iowa High School Hall of Fame, and first-round pick of the Yankees. Unfortunately, only had a 3-year career. His first year, pretty good. ERA about 3.60, and then the last couple years, not so great. But hey, when you're a first-round pick, you were the man. And anytime, we've talked about this before, anytime spent in the major leagues, is an accomplishment. You're in the 1% or less than 1% of people that play baseball. So ended up retiring in Johnson City, Tennessee. They said he managed a golf course. So it sounds like he had a pretty good retirement from baseball after that. But rest in peace, Bill Burbach.
Awesome, man. And so, David, as we move along here, the Tampa Bay Rays were 8-2 in their last 10. So they're playing really good baseball right now. I think I saw something not too long ago that said the Yankees had about a 13-14 game lead on everybody, and they're starting to close in a little bit. The Rays and the Blue Jays here, 6.5 and 7.5 back respectively. One of the things that I'm getting to see the Blue Jays play the Cubs this week here, and it's been really cool to see. With the interleague, you don't always see the Blue Jays and Cubs play, so very cool to see that. But man, that Toronto offense is something else, and that's the one thing that they just keep coming. And David, as you saw with the Yankees playing them recently, that's a good ball club there, and that's one of the teams that I think will scare you. But David, out of those two teams, Tampa and Toronto, which one scares you more?
Well, I would have said Toronto, but the Yankees kind of handled them when they were playing bad. So I would have said Toronto, and I probably still would stick with Toronto. I don't know if you saw the news. Shane McClanahan went down today with potentially
really?
serious injury.
Oh,
So, I mean, I don't know how serious. They said he has shoulder impingement. That's scary. That means your shoulder's coming in, out of socket. So anyway, Toronto would probably still scare me the most. But like I said, the Yankees kind of took care of business with Toronto. So, sometimes teams just have another team's number for whatever reason, and the Yankees kind of had their number this year.
Glasnow also gets a 2-year extension from the Rays. That guy's a stud. If he can get healthy again, the Rays have got some good pitching. With that injury and the other one, man, you only got so many horses in the stable. That was a famous quote here last year. So the Rays have a couple pitchers going down. They're definitely going to be in trouble with that as well. So, Matt, what's your thoughts, real quick, on the Blue Jays? I just want to kind of pick your brain here. All the former players who have sons on the Blue Jays now, and this team's kind of hit the stride there with all these young players. What are your thoughts on the Blue Jays?
That's what, anytime you get your younger players kind of moving in the right direction, they start gelling and they start playing. And it's kind of this time of the season is when you get those teams that have hit their stride. A lot of times it carries into the end of the series, and a lot of times you find those that just kind of just squeak in and then kind of keep moving along. And so anytime they can get going and get into a rhythm, I mean, you can kind of knock anybody out. And so we've seen any team that gets onto a streak, they get hot, especially this time of the season. I mean, they kind of just work their way into it. But especially you start seeing those younger guys, those players coming up, and you get those veterans, and everything just starts moving and kind of working together. I mean, they can really start making some big waves in it.
Very true, man. And something else that happened, David, too, with the Blue Jays, right after they got Whit Merrifield, um, Whit Merrifield slid into home plate on a play. I don't know if you saw this, but this is another rule that's been called a lot more this year, and it's finally happened. I've been baffled by this, even at the high school level, with this catcher blocking the plate rule. Okay, this has not been called up until this year very good by any means, and it's always been confusing to me every time I see it, because I'm like, he gives no room for the runner to slide safely into home plate, and yet they're still calling him out. Well, this year it's changed a little bit. We saw that first happen with Whit Merrifield sliding into home against the Twins, and Rocco Baldelli getting kicked out of the game because he was so mad about it. But the rule is if you do not have the ball, you cannot straddle that third base line. You cannot have any part of your foot, knee, whatever, your body over the top of the plate without the ball. Once you have that ball, you can basically go tackle the guy. You can crush him, whatever you want to do. But until you have that ball, David, you cannot do that with the plate where you're blocking any portion of that plate to where that runner cannot get to it. And it's finally been being called, and I love it, because I'm seeing it when they go to New York is when they're overturning this a lot. They did it. It happened a ton these last couple weeks. Out of nowhere, it finally has been being called, and called the right way finally. And so it just goes to show you that without the ball, can't do it, and it's being called, and it's about time, because this is the whole Buster Posey rule finally coming into play and finally being called the right way, David. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have zero problem with that. It keeps both guys away from injury. These guys are paid millions of dollars to play this game, and the last thing I want to happen is an injury when the guy doesn't even have the ball. So I have zero problem with them using that rule.
Yep, Matt, what are your thoughts on the blocking the plate rule, the whole Buster Posey rule? First, actually, let me ask you this: Did you think that the rule of running catchers over, do you still think that should be in the game, or were you happy to see that leave?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to see that leave. I mean, anytime you got somebody who, I mean, most of the time they're on their knees, so there's no way to brace themselves or anything, and so just them taking a blunt hit, someone sprinting at them, it is definitely not necessary in the game. I think one of the ones I saw was Joe Girardi. I think it was a few years ago where he was talking about how he was trained and the way they train a lot of theirs. It was the catcher, when you're waiting on the ball, it was put your left foot on that the corner of the plate, kind of right along that third base line. There is some of the plate showing that the runner, they could pass by, they could slide behind, and then kind of driving into them once you have the ball. But it is allowing them room, but at the same time, he was trying to block a lot of it. But at the same time, I've been seeing this a lot, even at like second base, where you have a player who, I mean, lays their entire leg in front of the plate,
Yes.
and you've got guys. I see a lot of them starting to wear the mitts and stuff. I mean, they're catching fingers and jamming wrists and different things like that because I mean, completely blocking the plate and giving no room for the runners.
That is a great point I meant to bring up too. You're exactly right about that. Somebody got hurt sliding into second because of that. They were completely blocking it. So there's something that needs to be established with that as well, because that's just going to cause injury, big time with the hands, no doubt. Yeah, so good point on that for sure, no doubt. It's good that they're finally calling this. So it was something that I had not seen up until this point. A lot of confusion on that rule, and hopefully they continue to call it the right way. So Baltimore sticks around, guys. They're 3 back in the wild card. Still not out of this. 67 and 61, 6-4 this week. So another good week by them. But David, I think it's time that they start. They need to kind of go 7-3, 8-2 in their last 10 here and start to pick it up just a little bit more if they want to make a run here in September, as we're closing out September here, where we're at the sprint of the year, and it's Baltimore needs to kind of step up a little bit. And Boston, as we round them out, completely out of it, 62 and 67.
DJ,
Bye bye to them.
I just saw today they're bringing back their general manager and their coach. I don't get it. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. One of the highest payrolls in baseball. Second straight year you're in the cellar, or pretty close to it. Weird.
Yeah. Matt, have you just kind of off topic a little bit here, but how many of the stadiums have you been to off top of your head? Do you know the ballparks?
I think just a few. I mean, majority of our time. I mean, if you look at all the multiple different ones of certain teams, I've been to probably a handful, but really Braves, Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, those are any kind of right around where we are is about as far as we've been.
That's awesome, man. And one of the ones that I think all of us have on our bucket list is Fenway Park. I mean, you've got, like you said, David, you got this payroll, you got this ballpark, and you're sitting 16 games behind first place and 8.5 in the wild card with all that offensive talent. Don't get it, man. Don't get it.
Nope.
So, guys, moving on to the AL Central here as we move along here. Cleveland's holding on, David. They're still in first place by 2 games over the Twins, 6-4 this week. The Twins were 4-6. So they hold on to a 2-game lead there. I know you keep saying, David, the Twins are going to overtake them, and I agree with you 100%. Matt, who do you think is going to win the Central?
I don't know. Really, it's coming to that point. It's really anybody's race. I get kind of what I was talking about earlier with just kind of whoever can get hot right here at the last of it. I mean, so many are they're flip flopping back and forth, and then they're just kind of starting to. I don't know. Maybe the pressure's building on. They're trying and pushing and trying to get across the finish line, but I don't know. It's really anybody's call, and it's going to come down to these last few months or a few weeks, and whoever can really kind of put the most wins together is I don't know. They're all up and down, so it's really no consistency at all.
That's very true. It's probably one of the weakest divisions, to be honest with you, in the entire game. When your leader has a .535 win percentage, which Cleveland does, that is by far the worst leader in the major leagues here. And guys, I got to drop this in here too. I know I watch a lot of White Sox in this household because of Nicole and Lindsay and being White Sox fans. And man, 63 and 65 record, David. And I'll be honest with you, I've lived here my entire life. So I know exactly what's going on with the White Sox all the time too, because they're the other team here. And guys, I've never Other than the 2005 team that won the World Series, there has never been a team more hyped than this team this year, by the fans, by everybody, really. They thought this was the season. They thought this was a year. And they're not even at 500, guys. And it's severely disappointing. There's a lot of injuries. There's no doubt about that. And that, it is an excuse. I'm sorry. If your best players aren't out there, I mean, that is what it is. There's nothing you can do about that when injuries happen, to your star players, especially. That stinks, and that's going to hurt any ball club that is good. But they have not been able to tread water. They haven't been. Kopech just went down. They are struggling mightily. They're 2-8 in their last 10, guys. 2-8, and have fallen below 500. Still somehow 5.5 out of the first place, and they have fallen 7 behind in the wild card, which is going to be really hard to make up. But 5.5 back is still mind blowing to me that they're still in this thing somehow. But highly disappointing. And your thoughts on the White Sox, David?
Yeah, I mean, this will be the end of La Russa for sure. And like you said, maybe not his fault 100% with all the injuries and stuff, but high expectations. And hey, Cleveland, man, pitching's the name of the game. I just pulled up their starting 5. They're hot. Savali is showing up again. Cal Quantrill doing well. Tristan McKenzie. The back end of it, their bullpen is amazing with Emmanuel Clase. So it looks like it's going to be the Indians, or the Guardians. I can't get used to saying that. It looks like it's going to be the Guardians.
Get back to being politically correct. Yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't. I just, there's something about it that just doesn't, I don't believe it, man. I can't. I still think that I'm treating them a lot like the Giants were last year. It's going to be one of those kind of things where just kind of don't believe it, and then they just keep going. It's kind of in that same boat this year with me with Cleveland. So I don't know, man. It's there for Minnesota to take, and they've got the talent to do it. Byron Buxton going down surely has not helped them one bit. But it's been a pretty good race there. Let's just leave it at that. Although all those teams have mightily struggled at certain points throughout the season. So moving along, guys, to the AL West, and we go along here. Pretty much every team in this division in their last 10 was 6-4. Houston, Seattle, and Texas, all 6-4. The top 3 teams in this division. Houston, 82-47. And David, one of the things that from watching some Astros games, Framber Valdez, wow, Framber is an animal, man. And their starting pitching does not get enough love, David. If you could do me a favor here as I'm yapping, can you pull up the Astros stats like you just did with the Guardians? Because these guys 1 through 5, man, have been just dominant. I mean, they don't get the love that they deserve, because when you think of the Astros, all you really think about is that offense, because that lineup 1 through 9 is about as good as it gets in the major leagues and has been carrying them. And their pitching staff really doesn't get a whole ton of love. But, man, I've been seeing some historic stuff from Framber, especially. He's been dominant. These guys are just killing it. So, David, you got those there for us to talk about them?
So you got Verlander, who obviously Cy Young leader right now, probably not even really that close. Of course, he's on the DL. Then you got Lance McCullers now, who showed up here in the last few weeks and has had 2 or 3 really good starts. And Framber, and then I think they're running Urquidy and Luis Garcia out there as the 4 and 5, and you still got Christian Javier, who was having a pretty decent season himself, kind of like the swing man. So, like you said, man, unbelievable. I'm gonna tell you though, man, the bullpen. Looking at that, and maybe it's just because they're not big names, they're getting the job done. But I would be a little concerned if I was an Astros fan regarding the bullpen.
Oh, I had to bring this up. You just kind of reminded me when you said bullpen, David. I forgot to ask you about what your thoughts were on Aroldis Chapman going on DL because he got an infection from a tattoo.
Who? Aroldis who? Does he still play for the Yankees? Gosh, he's getting an A-Rod territory with me, DJ.
My goodness. Come on, man. What are you doing getting a tattoo in the middle of a season? I mean, what are you doing getting a tattoo, period? But right in the middle of a season where that's always a possibility of getting an infection and going on the DL. Oh, my goodness. Put that DJ, up there with some dumb injuries.
Judge just hit 51.
Wow. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Breaking news into the podcast, 51. So, wow. And this is all obviously before September, man. He's 10 away from Maris. Oof.
I think he's
And
going to do it, dude.
I'm telling you, put Stanton behind him. You got to put Stanton. You got to give him the stability to pitch to him.
So Stanton's behind him tonight.
Good. That's smart.
Yep.
Good stuff right there, man. So breaking news, 51. That's awesome. And so moving on to Seattle, some cool stuff happened this week. Seattle is plus 0.5 in the wild card. Not going to win the division. They're 11 back, but they are definitely a wild card team sitting 71-58. Talk about J-Rod, Matt. Talk about the contract. Talk about him as a player, what you've been seeing here from him this season.
That's what I mean. Definitely one of those upcoming stars. And I guess all I can say is they see it. They recognize the trajectory he's on as a player and just how quick that he is just kind of taking over. And so that's the only thing I can imagine they would lock him down with that contract that they did. And so, I mean, at the same time, I don't blame him. You got a kid like that you know where he's headed and you lock him down. I guess it's really a win-win for both the player and the team. They've got him. They know they've secured his rights for at least 12 years. And then, he's well taken care of. I guess the only other aspect about that is you look at, I guess they say I think his average salary will be like right at 15 million before all of the other options with like MVP, with all the series wins, all the different things that they worked in. I mean, just a crazy contract, but it's also doable for the team, especially if even if he just stays flat as just where he is. I mean, that's a good contract, but if he continues to go, it kind of has all the incentives to get him to keep pushing, to be better, and to hit all of those different marks, and could really make a ton of money with that contract.
Yeah, David, before I let you kind of talk a little bit about that contract, which is absolutely insane and something like we've never seen before, to be honest with you, with a contract. A lot of the people who were involved with this contract said it was the most fun they've ever had negotiating a contract, which I could see why with the different steps. And I was reading through it today and I couldn't really wrap my head totally around everything going on there. I'll have you break this down in a minute. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, David, is one of the cool things, like when me and you do our preseason team by team podcasts, is when we go to teams like the Mariners and we do the preseason podcast with them, we start to understand who Julio Rodriguez was. And we probably knew about him a lot before other people did. And we were telling people about this kid and how good he was. And Jared Kelenic, who hasn't lived up to the hype yet, but Julio Rodriguez, we knew was like the top prospect in baseball and one of those guys. And so it's really cool to be able to dig into these minor league systems, see who the next guys are. And we called it with Julio, and he's just been killing it. And so if you could, David, just a little bit on what your thoughts on the contract is for Julio there.
Well, it's a little bit risky. I mean, Julio obviously is having an awesome year. He's young. He's going to be the rookie of the year, but he's also struck out 127 times this year. And I just look at Giancarlo Stanton's contract, what an albatross that has become for the Yankees. He wasn't quite as young as Julio, but these look great those first few years, but those back few years, man. But man, good for him. He's going to be rich. His kids are going to be rich. His grandkids are going to be rich, and probably his grandkids' grandkids are going to be rich because of this contract. So, I don't blame either side for doing it, but there is a little bit of risk to it. I mean, you really don't know 100% what you're getting.
Yeah, so one of the cool things I think about this contract is it breaks down into like years of 7, where they reassess it at 7 years, how much they're going to pay the last 7 years off, all the way till he's 38. It's just insane how much breakdown it is to it. Right now, he doesn't make as much as it starts to get more and more as he moves along there. MVP comes into play, like Matt was talking about. So there's a lot of things at stake here. I think I read he could make anywhere from 210 to 475 million on this contract, depending on all the different circumstances and ways that go about with this contract. And so he's pretty much locked up till he's 38 with a full no trade clause too, as well, which is insane to know that they're not even even offering to trade him at any point. It's a full clause that he's got in that contract. So unbelievable. There's just a lot of things in there that we've never seen before. And I'm still wrapping my head around, to be honest with you. And I think the more that I start to learn about the contract, the more it's going to be even cooler than I really thought it was to start with here. But nonetheless, man, they've picked their guy to build around. And I think they picked a good one. And like you said, though, David, the thing that's going to be key with Julio is the league adjusts to you. So you got to adjust to it back. And if he doesn't do that, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble there. But we'll see. I think he's got the talent to overcome that. But one of the other cool things that happened in Seattle, I don't know if you guys just saw this, and I just saw it last night, so I kind of didn't really talk to you two about it. But Ichiro did go into the Mariners Hall of Fame. Obviously, a no-brainer. I'm telling you, David, 3,000 hits, and the guy didn't come into the league till he was 27 years old. You had another 5-6 years that he could have played in the majors to that career, and we're talking, historic numbers to say the least, and making a run at Pete for the all-time hits lead. One of the greatest hitters we've ever seen by far. Led the league in hits 7 times and just over 3,000 hits. Very easy pick there, but Ichiro was nonetheless one of the greatest things that we've ever seen as a hitter. And when you look at him, you don't think baseball player because he's probably 110 pounds soaking wet. So, and the man could mash and had probably one of the nastiest cannons we've ever seen. So really cool for him. Only 10 guys in the Mariners Hall of Fame. Not a long career for the Mariners as far as being a franchise. And I had just seen, one of the things with the Cubs is they've got like 50 something in their Hall of Fame. But obviously they've been around since 1887, so that's a whole different animal there. When you had a team that's been around 70 more years than the Mariners, you're obviously going to have a whole lot more guys in your Hall of Fame. So very cool for Ichiro nonetheless. And that AL West is shaking out to be Astros and everybody else, but we'll see if the Mariners can hang on there, David, and make some noise. So one quick note on the A's, David. What do you think of Shea Langoliers, their new catcher, man? What do you think of him so far?
Yeah, I mean, looks like a star in the making. I think they got him from the Braves. I can't remember who they sent over off the top of my head, but anyway, the A's they're doing their thing, man. They're kind of tanking this year, gathering players. They called up Waldichuk, which was the Yankees' top pitching prospect. They sent over for Montas, who's been a complete bust. But the A's are doing their thing. It won't be long. They'll be good again. And Langoliers looks like he's going to be a big part of it.
Matt, to the NL East, the Braves, man. Talk about the Braves for a minute.
I'm loving just a lot of especially the new players and things that are picking up. I mean, you got, I think we talked about with Harris, his signing and all the things that are going, just an electric player. Just definitely great locking him down. And one of the interesting things with them moving him to center, it gives Acuna a little bit of a break, shifting him out to the outside. And so a lot of the things that they're doing, it's really starting to come together. They're playing some good ball. I know they shoot the other night. They had and walking the game-winning run home. That was a kind of a heartbreaker with everything, but you hate to see that, but it's part of the game. It's those situations and things that just come up. The bullpen is always, I mean, it's kind of hit and miss. It's kind of the same way with it last year, but they were able to put it together somehow, and we'll see how they do it this year. Hopefully they can kind of just keep plugging along, just staying consistent, just kind of keeping those 7-8 wins a week, and we'll see how they do.
So, Matt, talk a little bit about them locking up. This is something that I think is very cool. They've locked up. You just talked about Harris. They kind of did the J-Rod thing. Harris is a rookie himself. Gave him a big deal, locked him up. They've locked up Acuna. They got him on a great deal. They locked up Olsen. They've locked up Austin Riley. Yep. And Ozzie Albies they've locked up. About the only one they really haven't locked up is Dansby. And with Grissom coming up, What are your thoughts, man? Is this the end for Dansby? Is Grissom going to be the new guy? What are you kind of thinking they're going to go in that direction there?
Yeah, I think it's all going to come down to contract. What's he going to ask for? It's like, yeah, they paid him the 10 million this year. Are they? Is he looking for a raise? Is he looking for the 12, 15 million a year? It's like, are you going to get that type of, I guess, such a greater production out of him? Because I'm sure he's looking for a 5 year. At this point in his career, was he 28, 29? And so he's looking for that 5 year contract. And so are you going to pay him what 60 million over the course of 5 years? Where you've got Grissom that I think we're paying him 700,000. And so can you get the same type of production out of Grissom for a lot less? You use that other money to lock up maybe some of your other players, go after a couple more big players that you can kind of land. So I don't know. I see Dansby uh, at more kind of the average area. He's still putting out his home runs. He's still upper 20s, could hit the 30, but still, I don't know. I don't know if I see the value. It's going to be whether or not they see the value is to keep him or shift, and maybe they can bring someone up, trade for someone, put on the other side of the line, to fill in Grissom's spot and shifting him over afterwards.
Very interesting thoughts there, man. Very cool on that, no doubt. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. And Matt Marcelo Ozuna, what is going on, man?
This guy, I don't know. It's a lot of these types of players. They just can't get out of the way of themselves. They're constantly finding themselves in trouble with the law. They're away from the field. It's just like I. It's a lot of times these players they get the money and so they begin to enjoy the different things, the lifestyle, and I think they get off track. Really, a lot of times do you have somebody in your life that can kind of guide you and shape you? And I mean, they've got agents, they've got different people around them, but it's like you've got to have someone that you're accountable to. You've got to have someone that's kind of keeping you on track. What are you doing out? Like celebrating or doing whatever 4 o'clock in the morning, all these different things, his history with his I guess with the arrest, the battery and different stuff with his girl, all the kind of difference. And but at the same time, I don't know that the Braves are able to do anything with him. I know the fans are booing him. The fans don't want him around. But I mean, it's a ton of money to just cut bait with him.
Very true. Did he not get suspended for that? What's going on with that? I did not hear anything about that, to be honest with you. He was right back in the lineup. So what
Yeah,
happened?
yeah. I mean, he was just straight back in. I think it was like 2 nights. He was back in as a DH, and I think that was probably why the fans got so upset. But it's baffling. I don't understand the whole process of even him being arrested for the DUI, and then okay, just release and go back your business.
So Matt, being a big fan of the Braves, and talk to me about last year, man. That had to be really cool. Talk to me about how it was with your boys and your family and all that, and how much fun that had to be for you.
That's what with the kids. I mean, we stayed up. I kept trying to keep them up watching the game. It's just they still don't. I mean, the oldest is 11, and so the other ones just kind of tear down from there. And so they're good for about 30 minutes, maybe a couple innings or something, and they're kind of going about their way. So it was a lot of fun. Kept trying to keep them up, watching some of the ends of it. We were going back over the highlights. Just a great time. Just reliving a lot of time of the 90s and just the intensity and everything back then, just how much fun that was. And so all of that coming back around it was great. I don't know whether they remember it. Who knows? We'll see. Hopefully, within their lifetime, they bring a couple more around back home.
So in 1995, when the Braves won their only other World Series when we were alive, you were 15. Is that right? 14,
Hmm.
15. Okay, so for going all that time up until now, man, without a World Series, that's a long time to go, man. And that had to be so much fun for you. And congratulations, as that had to be so much fun. Having finally gone through this myself with the Cubs recently,
Yeah.
I know how great it is. But yeah, man, that was a huge chunk of time without them winning anything. I mean, up until last year, I mean, the whole time that I've known you, the Braves have never won the World Series. To kind of look at it that way, so it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy to think that. And it finally happened for them. And so one more little thought here on the Braves. So do you think? And I kind of was getting at this when we were talking about them, like kind of locking the core of this group up. Do you think that's a good thing moving forward? Because you don't see this very much, David. You don't see this very much with teams where they lock in. That's 3, 4, that's 5 of their guys, maybe 6 that are locked up for the next 7, 8 years here, and you just don't see that. So, are you on board with this? You think it's good to have that core kind of moving forward together instead of here this guy gets thrown out, this guy in? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love the idea of getting your core group and beginning to build around them. Anytime you try to do a lot of the addition, subtraction, oh, this guy, we brought him in. Oh, this guy had a good year. Let's bring him in. I know the Yankees love to do stuff like that, and so I never been a fan of that type of deal. I kick David around a little bit,
Oh
but
yeah.
I love the idea of what they're trying to do, building that team, and really, I guess, kind of the nucleus of it, and then kind of shaping and moving, adding pieces here and there. And so it's always like that deal. You see it one of those years, you think you're going to make a good run, add a couple of the pieces, find those little the guys that you build through the draft, through your club, maybe trade for a player or two, whatever it is you think's going to put you over the top. And so I like it. I like the direction they're going, and so and definitely with the youth, it's definitely promising, I think.
Those guys are coming, David. They are no joke this year. And that Cardinals series with the Braves this past weekend was an absolute joy to watch. That was a lot of fun. I caught the end of 2 of those games. Man, was that a fun series to watch. Intense. Like you said, David, those Cardinal fans don't mess around as far as attendance goes. They bring it. Kenley Jansen blew that one game Saturday night, which you know was really hard, I'm sure, for the Braves as they're 3 games back of the Mets. They need every one of them to try to get the division here. And the Mets just keep plugging along, David, and doing it with their pitching basically, and they're killing it. And the 82-47 record is no joke. But the Braves are right there, man, and they can definitely take this thing over. And another team in this division just got Bryce Harper back. Philadelphia is no joke either. 1.5 up in the wild card, locking one of those spots up. 72-57 record, which is outstanding. In third place, we knew this would be a tough division at the top. Miami is struggling a little bit at the bottom there, obviously, and then Washington at the very bottom. And one of the cool things I saw, not cool things, but one of the unbelievable stats I saw about the Nationals, guys, is they went 46. I'll say that again, 46 games without having a starting pitcher get a W in the win column in a row up until last night when they finally broke the streak. 46 straight games without a starting pitcher getting a win until Patrick Corbin broke that streak last night. So the Nationals, no joke. Obviously getting rid of Soto, and they're obviously rebuilding. But to just see how far they've gone from winning the title in 2019 until now, they've definitely bottomed out from being at the top all the way to the bottom in a matter of 3 years. Just goes to show you how fast it can happen, and especially in smaller markets. So really crazy to think. But David, overall, I just want to pick your brain on one little thing here. You're really high on the Mets, 6-4 this week. Talk about the Mets for a second, how they've been playing recently.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Braves and everything that they've done and are doing, but the Mets are still the team to beat. Ric Flair once said, "To be the man, you have to beat the man," right? And you got to go through Scherzer and DeGrom, and I don't even care who you pick third or fourth in that series. You got to go through Scherzer and DeGrom, and you got to get past Edwin Diaz at the end. So I think the Mets are still the team to beat. I mean, they're going to have their ups and downs like everybody else, but the Mets are going to be hard for anybody to hold in the series.
Very true, man. My last note on the NL East, if you guys, I don't know if you saw this, Jacob Stallings, catcher for the Marlins, just broke Johnny Bench's record, most consecutive games caught without a pass ball. Very cool there. So congratulations to him. He's a very good defensive catcher. That's anytime you're breaking a Johnny Bench record, that's something that needs to be mentioned. So really cool stat there as well. The NL Central guys, the Cardinals, like I said, just in a dog fight with the Braves all weekend. Coming back and playing the Reds for the 900th time this year. This is a very boring series. Getting tired of that. Glad the 2023 schedule is going to change a lot of things. We can talk about that on a future podcast, but I'm excited about that. Cardinals are jumping ahead of the Brewers, man. 5.5 game lead on them now. They pretty much have wrapped this up, in my opinion. Cardinals are no joke. Team is very, very legit. And I'll ask you both, starting with you, Matt. Do you think Paul Goldschmidt will win the Triple Crown? He's got Kyle Schwarber ahead of him in homers, but he is leading the batting average in RBI. This has not happened since 1937. Joe Medwick, also a Cardinal, did it, and it's a long, almost 100 years since it's happened in the National League. Matt, do you think he'll do it?
Yeah, I like his chances for it. He's definitely, I mean, he's putting it in, he's getting it done. And so yeah, watching him has been exciting year watching him play. And so I definitely think he's gonna finish it off and bring it all around. And like you said, almost 100 years you said it was?
Yeah, since
37.
1937, so about 85 years.
That is crazy.
Absolutely hard. It's so hard to do. I mean, I'm a batting average guy. David knows that. I love batting average. For you to be able to hit for the highest batting average in your league and hit the most home runs and RBIs is just baffling. You got to be a special player to do that. And Paul Goldschmidt is, man. Arenado and him, I still can't believe they just wouldn't go get Juan Soto because of Dylan Carlson, but whatever on that. I mean, that just kind of blows my mind a little bit. But anyway, David, so Pujols, let's switch over to him real quick. He is just about to pass your boy Aroyd on the all-time list here. He's 3 shy of him, and I believe 7 shy of 700. So, number 1, does he pass Aroyd? And number 2, does he get 700, David?
I'm back on Team Pujols. The ghost of Albert Pujols has reappeared. He's back being a decent player, even though he can't run, field, or throw. He can still hit against lefties. That's what he's good at. And so yeah, I think he's going to pass Aroyd. I think he's going to get to 700, and I'm going to bet he plays again next year.
Oh,
and if he does, I hope he keeps right on going.
Gets past Babe Ruth. That would be so cool, man. It really would. Matt, what are your thoughts on Pujols?
Yeah, that's what I was definitely going to say. If he isn't able to break the 700 this year, I mean, he's definitely coming back. Does he take a half year and just kind of take the lap after he hits 700? Does he keep playing? That kind of wait to see what he does with all of that. But I mean, seeing a lot of these players playing into their 40s, it's crazy, but still playing at that high level. With the exception, kind of what Dave was saying, with not really fielding or running or doing any of that kind of stuff, but still striking a ball hard and just drilling it.
Man, he and David and I talked about this last time we were on. He murders left-handers. He just does. If you have a left-hander going against the Cardinals, he needs to be in the lineup and hitting in the middle of the order because he just destroys lefties. And there's value to that, man. You get a nasty lefty in the playoffs, and you get a guy like Pujols who hits him that well. It's a good thing. So yeah, this division is shaping up to be all Cardinals and the Brewers hanging on to a wild card spot by a game and a half. Not sure if they're going to hold on to it. The only thing I'm going to say about the Cubs this week, David, is Shohei Ohtani will soon be a Chicago Cub. I'm going to leave it at that. And you can,
sure.
Yeah, you agree? Yes.
Oh yeah.
You agree? Okay, good. We're on the same page on that one. That's good to hear. So we made a good sales pitch to him the first time around. I think the Angels are going to come around and we're going to sweep him off his feet and give him a good trade. And he's going to be one of the guys that we build around in the future. So you heard it here first. Shohei Ohtani to the Cubs coming up pretty soon to Wrigley Field near you.
He'll be used to being the best player on a losing team. So he'll know all about how to do that and how to handle that. So that would be a good place for him to go.
Wow, that was a good one. I got to give it to you, that new little turn. Okay, I got you. Gotcha. Yep, well, me and Nicole are going on Wednesday. Got a game coming up here to watch them play the Reds, so that'll be a lot of fun there. And go see them play some ball. It's still fun. I'm still watching them, even though they're 55 and 75. It's been a tough season. Just kind of trying to figure out which pieces we're going to have moving forward. And that's the hard part. I think everybody's on a tryout basis right now for them. And I do mean everybody. There's like pretty much nobody on there that's guaranteed a spot moving forward. So it's going to be interesting to see how this offseason goes with all this money we got coming up here. So my last note on the NL Central before we move on, guys. And Matt, here I got this one for you. One of the things that we talk about too is our preseason podcast, and we talked about the Pirates. One of the guys that we talked about that was an up and comer was old Neil Cruz, and we kind of put him on the radar there. He hit the ball 122.4 miles an hour off of the right field wall the other day. The hardest hit ball ever in the StatCast era. Can't say ever because they weren't doing this for a long time, but when he hit that ball, I thought that they put a hole in the wall. It was hit that hard. He hit it so hard he got a single off of it because it bounced back so far. So I think it's the second hardest hit ball ever. Matt, back in 1999, a certain guy named DJ Cox in an inter squad game hit a ball 127.7 off of David Swor. So I believe that's
news.
The one is still holding. And O'Neal Cruz sits pretty at number 2 there. But that's my little point there for the Pirates. That's pretty much all they need to be talked about. So moving to the last division. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, that guy, looking at him and kind of different things, you don't really realize just how big this kid is. Yeah. And it wasn't until I saw him stand beside Judge, I was like, this guy he's just as big. Like his frame is not as wide, but the long arms, the stride, he's got the speed, the power. He is definitely a lot of fun to watch. Definitely going to be interesting to watch him over the years. But definitely somebody that the Pirates have and they've got a hold of. I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know if he'll try to stick around being on a team like that, but definitely fun for MLB and their fans.
Yeah, man, he's unbelievable. He's a great talent. Like you said, he's an absolute beast. Huge human being. I believe he's 6'7" and plays shortstop and throws at 99 from shortstop. That poor first baseman. That's all I got to say on that. Whew. But man, our last division here, the NL West, and then we'll wrap up in our MLB talk here. But guys, it's the Dodgers and everybody else right now. It really is. I mean, these guys are on pace to give the Mariners 116 a run for its money. These guys just, when you think they're going to lose a game, they find a way to win. And 1 through 9, they're better than everybody. Tony Gonsolin just went down. So one of the things that's not good about that is you got him and Buehler out now, but they just got Dustin May back. So they just keep reloading and keep going across here. If they get Kershaw back, Gonsolin back, these guys are just in a class by themselves. 89 and 38 is their record. And one of the things that I saw that was absolutely crazy is, guys, there's been 6 teams in the entire history of baseball, 6 teams that have had the most runs scored and given up the least amount of runs in the history of baseball. And they're on pace to do that and become the 7th team to do that, which is insane when you are scoring more runs than everybody and giving up the least. It's just unheard of, really, to be honest with you. And they're just the most well-rounded, well-balanced team. In the National League, I really honestly, and David knows this, I'm not a believer in the Mets. So I believe that the Braves are the team that's going to give them the most fits in the National League. I really do believe that. And I also, if I had to pick a second team, I think I would go Cardinals. But man, they are just in a class by themselves. Unbelievable. The Padres are 19 and a half back of them, and they're 71 and 59, which is just unbelievable. They're in the wild card spot themselves, 5-5 in their last 10. The Giants are 61 and 66, and then you got the other teams down there. So a couple things I wanted to I'll pick your brains on. I'll go with Matt. on the Padres, and David, I want to talk to you about the Giants real quick. So Matt to the Padres. What are your thoughts of the Padres with them getting Soto and getting all those guys at the deadline? Do you think they're a dangerous team? Are you scared of them a little bit as far as the Braves go?
Not so much. They still. I mean, again, like you were saying, it's just trying to add different pieces. Whether or not they can get everybody working on the same page just before they get into the playoffs, if they can get in on that right at the tail end. I don't really see them making a big run for it, and not really a team I'm looking at that is going to give the Braves a whole lot of fits.
I agree with you, man. I'm just not really impressed. I really think Tatis ruined it for him, man. As bad as that sounds, just having him in the lineup changes everything, and they're just not clicking. For whatever
Mm.
reasons, they're just not doing it. And so I don't know. And so David, are the Giants who we thought they were? I guess I gotta go with that. I mean, last year we really could not believe how good they were. And then now they've come down to earth really bad. It's almost like they were the best team in the league last year. Won't make the playoffs this year, not even really close to 500. So I ask you, like, what happened? Like, it's basically the same team, really. I mean, I don't know what happened. I didn't get a chance to really break this down as much as I want to today, but what in the world happened to the Giants?
Yeah, I think the Giants were. I mean, they just had a good run last year, and they did lose some players. Gossman went to Toronto, and so that would have hurt. And there was somebody else I was thinking of there
Buster Posey retired. I mean,
Buster Posey retired. Brandon Belt getting a little bit of age on him. Brandon Crawford getting a little bit of age on him. At some point, your luck just kind of runs out. And I think we reviewed their farm system the last couple of years. They got one of the worst farm systems in baseball. So they're not like the Braves where they're just plug and play with some other guys. So it was a good run. That run last year was amazing. I still don't know how they did it, but it's probably time to start tearing down a little bit. And that's going back. We talked about the Red Sox. The Red Sox and the Giants are in the same boat. It was pretty obvious they couldn't win with the team that they had. So their best bet would have been to strip it down, get some prospects. But they both kind of played the middle ground, and instead of getting something for Rodon, they've got nothing, and they're still in third place. So. And the same with the Red Sox. Instead of going ahead and trading Xander and those guys and trying to get something for them, still in last place. And you're still not going to have Xander next year. So, you kind of just have to pick what you're going to do with that trade deadline and go for it.
You got it, man. So it's going to be a lot of fun here as we move into Labor Day. A lot of people normally say once Labor Day hits, here we go. Everybody takes an even closer look at the standings, and it becomes a whole lot of fun, man. And there's a lot of great races. Going to be a lot of fun here, wrapping up this season, going into the playoffs. And so as we close tonight, Matt, a couple things here. Wanted you to kind of take over this portion for a few minutes here and just kind of talk. Number one, about your playing days in baseball. Everybody's got a story. Everybody made it to a certain point and stopped. We all did that. So just kind of what's your story as far as your playing days go? And then how did you, as a young child, become a Braves fan? Who kind of helped you with that? Who are some of the players that you like to watch growing up as a Braves fan? So go, it's all you, man.
Yeah, I mean, going in, you really kind of just start. Early 4 or 5 years old, starting in the t-ball and getting into that whole deal, and so playing through all that into in the pee-wees, little league, and all that kind of deal. It was, I guess, about 13 or 14. I got out of baseball as it was. I guess about the same time when you start looking at playing for school and in high school, or a lot of guys were going either competitive route, and so that wasn't something I kind of followed. So I guess about a couple years later, I got into some modified fast pitch softball. I just began to enjoy just playing, getting out there, and just getting into a lot of different stuff, and played really later on played into just some slow pitch, some of the competitive softball and different things that were going on to about 5 years or so ago. And life happens. You get busy, all the different things going on, family, kids, and so kind of going here and there. And you really just, like I said, life happens. You kind of enjoy those days, get a lot of memories, a lot of fun, different guys to play with, a lot of folks still kind of keep in touch with, being able to see everybody on Facebook and a lot of the social media things. And so just a lot of fun, but kind of that was I guess the point I got to. It finally was like, okay, it's time to hang them up, start doing a little bit of coaching and different things with the younger kids, and I guess kind of giving back with that. Growing up, I was kind of surrounded by Cardinals fans, Braves fans, and so my dad was a Cardinal fan, mom Braves. A lot of my mom's side was all Braves, and so growing up, watching games with my grandparents, my grandfather always just giving this TV, all the players just a ton of grief. But I love watching Smoltz. I love watching. I mean, even like the Fred McGriffs, the Chippers, the David Justices. I mean, the '90s was a great time. But I tell you, my favorite player was King Griffey Jr. Just
Nice.
a smooth hitter, speed, power. I mean, the being able to cover so much of the field. He was just the guy. I kind of never really picked up with Seattle, but I couldn't stop watching him and seeing kind of as everything came out with all the I guess the steroids and everything that came out of that. Love seeing the fact he was just I mean, he would just give it all and listen to a lot of things he talked about, just coming up under his dad. And I guess he was saying being from a small town and his dad, yes, being an all-star, but not really that superstar. And so he wasn't really pressured to kind of do all of that stuff to try to be the best. But it was always his dad pushing him. It's like, they may be better, they may be faster, but they better not outwork you.
Yep.
And that was what I always loved about him. I mean, it was just his swing was unlike anything else. And with him being the hitting coach coming up for the Olympics and all, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I've never really determined if it was just a natural swing with him, if it was something he learned, was taught. And so a lot of times I question whether or not players with just a God given ability and just such natural athletic ability can teach another group to have to do what they do. But I mean, the guy saw the ball and it was just, he was always just so much fun to watch in the field, behind the plate. It was just always just I mean, I just love watching him.
Oh yeah. And he had the best shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a ton of his tennis shoes, his
I still
cleats,
love the
and
Griffies.
yeah.
So Matt, what positions did you play in baseball? Softball.
Uh,
Both.
softball, I really, and baseball kind of growing up, it was infield, shortstop, second base. Uh, but growing up, getting into softball, I loved the outfield. It was something I didn't like the hops and stuff that would come up, knock you in the face and everything with being on the infield. I just loved being able to just run and kind of run wild in the outfield. That's why there was always this one guy that we played with. He just always called me this human. What would he would always call a human highlight reel, and
Nice.
it was just it was you better hit it over the fence or hit it off the fence if you're going to get it by me. And so it was like I just loved being able to run, and so I just enjoyed it, and so that was kind of where I went with it all.
That's awesome, man. And it's really cool that you're a Ken Griffey fan. So you got to check this out. If you can't find it, I will send it to both of you in our little group there. But Ken Griffey Jr. just redid his 1989 Upper Deck baseball card.
Uh,
He put a picture of him now looking just like he did
oh,
back. It's hilarious, man. You got to look that up.
That's awesome.
You got to see that. That was really cool to see. Like you said, man, that's going to be a lot of fun too. The World Baseball Classic coming up. Team USA looks outstanding. I haven't seen the pitching yet, but I know the offense is going to be definitely there. So, yeah, Matt, thanks for coming on tonight, man. You were always really good to us, man. And, you were a soccer player in college and just a great athlete. And we were baseball players, but you always treated us good and we're a good friend to us as well. So, we appreciate that a lot, man. And you're doing great things through your ministries and everything you're doing now. And you've got a great family and everything going for you right now and 5 kids. And so you've got a busy life, man, but you're glorifying the Lord, which is awesome in these times we're living in. We need more people like you and more people to just be spreading the word. And And so good on you for all that, man. You're a great dude, and thanks for coming on the show tonight, man.
I enjoyed it, and thanks for having me. Good catching up and getting into a lot of the ball.
You got it, man. So, David, I think what we're going to do moving forward here, we're going to take a little week off, and then we got Josh Anderson coming up in 2 weeks. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Former teammate of ours, as well as coming on, going to jump on the show here. Talk
Josh,
some Brewers.
if you're watching this, I need you to eat shrimp the night before. Do y'all remember when Josh ate shrimp and his lip literally got that big? So I'm requesting some shrimp. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Matt remembers Moose. Okay. Good deal.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I was going to go to you and see if you remembered him from back in the days there. He came at the end of our Temple time there. So wasn't sure if you saw him or not. I kind of caught just the end of him as well, too. So.
Yeah, good times. Yeah, we enjoyed. I got to know him quite a bit and talked to him a lot kind of afterwards. So it's been good.
Awesome, man. That's good. That'll be a fun show. And Matt, it was a fun one with you too, and I appreciate it, man. And hopefully we'll have you on here sometime in the future as well. And did a great job. And for everybody, please like and subscribe to our YouTube page. And have a good night. And David, I hope your Yankees have a terrible week.
Oh, I appreciate that.
All right, take care, everybody.
See you guys.
All right, see you.